In one of the most dramatic elections of recent times, Labour's Red Wall turned to dust and they suffered their worst defeat since 1935. The party has lost its way. Their leadership arrogantly believed that they knew better. Many of their policies were laughable, their spending plans were away with the fairies, and their party has been investigated for racism. It is no wonder that they got a kicking worthy of an MMA ring. Alas, we need the Labour Party to regroup. For a healthy democracy, it is essential that we have a credible, and dare I quote Theresa May, strong and stable opposition. See what I did there? The only way this is possible is if they avoid Corbyn 2.0 and instead have a radical change from its current intense socialist agenda and fairy tale spending plans. They need to learn lessons from this disaster and get back to doing what they do best, represent the everyman.
I sort of can't help feeling that this is going to be academic for 5, possibly 10 years, because I don't think that they necessarily are going to come up with somebody who is going to be able to rebuild the red wall that crumbled to dust in December. It's going to be very interesting because I think we can all join the Labour Party and vote for candidates who we like the cut of their jib. It's very important that there is a credible opposition that is going to interrogate this government in everything it does, because the last thing we need is an elected dictatorship. However, this government has already cast itself as the people's government. All the Labour candidates are going to cast themselves as people's candidates. So let's just hear from one who I personally like and would encourage her to stand, and it's Jess Phillips.
The reason we lost the last general election is because people didn't trust us to govern, and whether that was about leadership, whether that was about message, whether that was about what we were offering, or if we were offering so much that people felt like it just wasn't possible. So much of politics is about how people feel about the street they live on, how they feel in their hearts and their bellies about whether their kids are safe or that they don't like the homelessness on the streets where they live. We have got to elect somebody who can speak to people's hearts.
We've got to elect somebody who's an electable, credible opposition.
Let's have a look at the runners and riders, shall we? Here we go. Here's the list. From left to right, Sir Keir Starmer, then Jess Phillips, from whom we just heard, then Clive Lewis, Emily Thornberry, Lisa Nandy and Rebecca Long-Bailey. That is at the time of taping. There could even be another arrival in Barry Gardiner who's still yet to make his decision. You know what? I wonder, and Greg, this is possibly one for you because you and I are of that, and possibly Rachel, I wonder if actually whoever the list leader is has to do a Kinnock, which is effectively detoxify the party, take all the hit, then fall on his or her sword, and up comes whoever the next Blair might be. Greg?
Possibly. I mean, if it's basically the left that stay in control of the party, the hard left.
Well, that would be Rebecca Long-Bailey.
That would be Rebecca Long-Bailey. I think it's the end of the Labour Party.
Right.
I think
people have been saying that for
they
years.
have,
yes, but look, it's not far off. This was a disastrous result.
It was worse than Michael Foot.
This was a disastrous result. Oddly, I mean, I did all right in London. It's not, but outside, it was terrible. If Corbyn's chosen successor wins, give up.
Yeah.
It's over.
But I would say the same of Keir Starmer. Sir Keir Starmer, the architect of Labour's Brexit policy, another London Labour MP. That's going to play on the streets of Redcar?
I'm not so sure. I think Keir Starmer has an intelligent, thoughtful...
I'm not saying he's not intelligent.
And I think there's some others, but I mean, I don't think you can have somebody who says, we had exactly the right policies, but somehow we didn't win because of Brexit.
Yeah. Hearing from here.
Let's just get this out of the way on the Brexit policy. For the majority of the last 3 years, Labour's Brexit policy was basically soft Brexit, staying in the single market and no chance of a people's vote. Now, that if you've got your 71% of Labour voters voted Remain and you're 29% that wanted to leave the EU, mainly for having more control. If you're offering a Brexit that takes us out of the EU, that means you have less control because we no longer be EU members, you annoy pretty much your entire voter base. So Labour could not have committed to Brexit. So I do believe the next leader has to be somebody who's on the people's vote side of that debate.
Oh, for God's sake,
can't be
Brexit.
serious.
The war is over. What are you
No.
talking about?
The war,
Even she accepts it.
let's be really, really clear. Boris Johnson has a year to negotiate a deal that is significantly more complicated than the one that took him three
Can I ask you a
years.
question?
So, which means that by the end of this year, and
Not
certainly
again.
by 2024, the country will, on the whole, be very clear as to whether or not Brexit was a good idea or a bad idea, and the
that's
damage
right.
would have set in.
I don't.
So
I disagree with you. I've got to tell you
Come
that
on.
I think by 2025, I think 5 years. I think it will be yesterday's issue.
But people will be-
yesterday's issue, which is why I don't necessarily think the Labour Party is devastated by it. I just don't think that it is. I think they can come back, but they can't come back if you're going to go and have the knee-jerk, what I would used to call the trots, the old Trotskyists in control, because actually that's not what the population is and it's not what they want.
But surely to God, you now accept that Brexit, it's a done and dusted thing, it's going to happen, end of story.
However bad it is.
Brexit is going to happen, but the point is, we're talking about the next election. We're talking about 2024, and literally, I don't know why we're arguing about this. Pretty much all experts in the field say that Brexit will leave us worse off. So we will know categorically that Brexit has hurt this country
speaks to
by
Jess
the
Phillips,
next election. At which point, Labour needs to be able to say, we gave you a chance to get out of this. So let's put that to bed for 1 second. The main thing that will win that election is if the left is united. The fact that we have essentially in this country one party on the right and several parties on the left means that in a first-past-the-post system, the right is always going to be at an advantage. The best way to ensure that there is a real possibility of a victory for left-leaning politics at the next election is for the Labour Party to commit solidly to electoral reform.
Yeah,
What was
I agree.
Nigel Farage's party? That wasn't to the right?
Pardon?
What was Nigel Farage?
And they
that
got-
wasn't to
and
the
they got-
party.
and they got a smaller vote share
that
than the
completely
Greens.
destroys your argument.
And
It's
they
not
got-
like there's one party on the right and there's all these others over there. It's just not
Effectively,
true.
because of the Brexit Party did worse than the Greens.
But you're
So
right.
you've got
if Labour is going to win again, they're going to have to, take on PR, and two, they're going to have a deal with the Liberals in particular to say, you stand here and we'll stand there.
Yeah.
The days when you could, and the trouble is that's going to be very tough for the Labour Party, and it's not what they believe.
But its survival depends on it, and the only
Yes.
way you're going to get Lib Dems and Greens voting for the Labour Party is if they see it as a route to real power at the following election, where there will be
Being
proportional
coalition.
representation.
Michelle, you
Coalition.
stood as a candidate. Tell
I
us what it
did.
was. What was not the reaction to you, but what was the reaction to the Labour Party in Hull? Because
Oh,
they've
well,
always been.
Well,
it's-
I was blown away. So in Hull, it's just simple. No one else might even bother. You might as well not even bother in Hull, because it is one of those cities. You vote Labour because your dad did, your granddad did. That's how
Why
it is.
did you stand
in
for the
Hull.
Brexit Party then?
Yeah.
Because of principle,
But tell
because-
us about the reaction you got. From,
Yeah, so
on the
I was out
doorstep.
so I ran for the Brexit Party, and I ran, to answer your question, out of principle, because I'm a Brexiteer, and I knew and I know and I maintain there's an awful lot of people in Hull that would not have gone Tory. And to be fair to your brother and his crew, they did a very good job in neutralising the threat of the Brexit Party. To your point, we didn't do very well at all, and that was because solely the strength of the Conservative
The
Party.
Tories became the Brexit Party
Yeah,
for
indeed.
the
They
purposes of that
neutralised the
election.
threat incredibly well. But back to your point, I was out door knocking, I was out in the rain, the shine, everything, and I couldn't believe the response that the Labour Party was getting. There was posters up in Hull saying, "Get Labour out." People like because I stood in 2017, and I got abused left, right, and centre by the Labour activist supporters, some of them. And this time around, the mood was completely different.
But Labour won.
They did win, but the
only just.
mood only just in some of the seats, and they lost by quite a big amount at some of their majority, and the mood was completely different. So last time, the Labour politicians, they're swanning around like they owned the place, it was their seat, their seat. This time, the mood was significantly different. So I think if you ask them, and to be fair to them, some of them only got elected because I took a lot of the votes. I took a lot of the votes, and I split the Brexit vote. So in my seat,
Are you
I
going to
split
join the
vote.
Labour Party to vote in this coming election?
No.
Yeah, I do every
We all
time.
know.
Yeah,
Well, everyone
every
else
time I
is.
do.
Well,
Will you join every party? Don't you?
Yeah, no, you're definitely
Anyway.
They're part of
the
outrage.
Not the Brexit Party,
the
Greg.
Brexit
Not
Party.
So essentially, we have about 5 years for the left to sort itself out.
Yeah.
You're watching The Pledge. Coming up, I'm saying it's time to take from the rich and give to the poor.